Hello everyone, it's Jennifer Joy, Creativity and Life Purpose Specialist, and I've had a bunch of things come together this week into this topic that I wanted to talk about today, which is whether you are owning it. Whether you're owning your calling as a creative, whether you are owning your calling as a creative entrepreneur. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in my life and how that relates to you. So this is I think I don't even know, 8th or 9th play that I've done with the certain directing team. We work with a community youth theater, and this week and next week we are performing Annie, the junior version, for our kids who are, I think age 5 through 15, I believe, most of them being in that middle school age. And one of the things when I work with the students is that I always talk about owning it. When you get on stage, own your part. Own the movement you're going to do. Don't do it halfway. Don't do it halfway, because if you do something halfway, the audience doesn't know if it's a mistake. The audience doesn't know whether to laugh or not. You don't have that full connection with the audience when you're doing something halfway. So I have that going on in the background, my theater group. And again, this is a theme that I teach them, go all the way. Now, I know so many of you responded to the post on Monday, and it's still going strong. The post about what are you struggling with in your business? And a lot of people talked about time management and priorities and being pulled in different directions and self-confidence. All these sort of different topics that to me are sort of floating around the stratosphere of owning it. So I want to ask you, when you step onto your stage, the stage of your business, the stage of your creativity, are you owning it fully? Or are you getting on there and doing it halfway? Now, let me give you of how I would have heard this several years ago. Now, if I had someone that I was following tell me this message several years ago, owning it would have meant like doing it at least 40 hours a week, putting 110% into that 40 hours per week and just doing it, right? And I have to be honest with you, that's how I did things until I burnt out. Like totally burnt out. We are talking adrenal fatigue, massive issues, depression, energy issues, total bleh, right? So I learned that when you own something, it does not necessarily mean you have to do it 40 hours a week, like 110%, 40 hours a week, right? It's not about that. So I know some of you out there have probably checked out already. You're like, well, I know I can't do that. I have a full-time job. I have kids. I'm sick. My mom's sick. You've got all this stuff going on in your life that tells you that you can't own it, right? Because you've got in your mind this expectation of what owning it should look like. And that expectation, by the way, is based on that old 20th century, be the worker bee, right? We've created these factories and now we want you to be the worker bee till you retire, right? We're in a whole different world right now. That is not what I'm talking about, okay? Although most of us were raised in that paradigm. What I'm talking about is when you are present, when you are doing something, own it. So I'm not telling those kids on stage that you need to go home and spend every waking hour that you're not in school learning your part and practicing your movement. They're kids, for crying out loud, right? They've got other things going on in their life, right? What I'm saying, though, is when you step on stage or when you take that time to practice, own it. And that's what I'm saying to you. So let's say, and I've been working with business owners for about a decade, and own my own business since 1998. Can you believe it? It's been 20 years since I've owned my own business. And what I've always worked with people when I coach them on, how do I prioritize? How do I do this? I've pulled in all these directions. It's not about worrying what you're doing, why you can't do your business, why you can't do your creativity. It's about saying, okay, I can put in 10 hours a week. I can put in 5 hours a week. I can put in 2 hours a week. That's your time when you are on stage. I don't care if it's a half hour a week, but saying this is when I do my work. This is when I work on my business. I'm owning this time. Again, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's 30 hours, doesn't matter. This is the time that I am owning it. And when I am there, hi Judy, when I am there in that 30 minutes, when I am there in that hour, whatever it is, that I am there 100% and I am owning it. I am present and I am owning it. I'm owning my calling, I'm owning my business, I'm owning my purpose, I'm owning who I am as a creative entrepreneur. So that's what I'm asking you. Are you treating it like this hobby that I'll get around to it when I get to it? Or are you owning it? Are you owning it? Because if you're not owning it, just like I tell the kids on stage, your prospects, your clients, your customers are going to see the disconnect. They're going to be like, oh, is this person? Wait, no, should I jump on board with this person or no? Wait, this person seems tentative. Should I be tentative? They're going to be in that state of doubt, just like it is when my kids step on stage and they're not owning it and the audience doesn't know whether to go on the ride with them. So I want to be very clear. I don't care if it's 30 minutes a week that you spend on your business. When you're in that 30 minutes, own it. And it's about I was talking to a client last week about acting as if. If fear is telling you you can't own it, if fear is telling you you aren't confident, to doubt yourself, put fear aside and say, you know what? I'm going to pretend that I'm confident. I'm going to pretend that I can go in there, own it, and go in there and just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. And of course, there's many videos I've talked about creative paradox, creative fears. So if you want any support in that, go back in my archives on this page. Check out some of my videos that I've talked about fears and facing them and moving forward through them as well. But most of all, just get on stage, whatever your stage is, for however long you're going to be there, and own it. So that's what I have for you. I don't know if I'll be on later this week or not. I got a show. Oh, and it's so funny. Let me just tell you, we are doing I told you, Little Orphan Annie, and that is really one of the ways that I fell in love with theater, is that my mom, she went with her boyfriend or fiance, I don't remember if they were engaged at the time, to see the show in Chicago. And this was back in the 70s, late 70s, I believe. And she went to see the show with him, brought home the show program, right? And the vinyl album, right? The big old 12-inch vinyl album. And, you know, I'd already been performing in my backyard. I already loved performing. Don't get me wrong. Was on my first stage, I think, when I was 5. Although I was actually on earlier. My grandpa owned a supper club here in Wisconsin, and I used to sit on the piano and sing "Do a Deer." So anyway, but my first stage experience was at age 5, and this was about 4th grade that she went to see Orphan Annie and brought home the album and the program. And I have to tell you, I spent hours and hours and hours listening to that record and staging that show, even though I'd never seen it. I'd never seen it. She went without me. So I spent hours and hours watching that show, and my poor best friend who lived a house over, Jenny, yeah, it was Jenny, she had to play an orphan so many times. She didn't really want to play an orphan, but we'd trade off. We'll play library with you today, and today we're going to play Little Orphan Annie. So I dragged her into so many adventures, and we'd do the costuming and just everything. So it's such an amazing, you know, I wish I could go back and tell my 4th grade self that I was going to actually help direct this play in the future. It's just so much fun to see that type of thing happen. So I don't know why I got off on that tangent, but I hope you've enjoyed my story about Little Orphan Annie. And of course, Just think back to what you're doing that you never thought you'd do, or those dreams that have come true. Keep focused on that, not on what you can't do, but focused on what you are doing and what you can do, and owning it. Just owning it. So I'd love to hear any comments or insights you've had from this video. Go ahead and leave them in the comments below. And as always, get out there and just be yourself. Own who you are and share your spark. Share your spark and own your spark. So I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.